Hey everybody, my name is Dr. Sean Price, clinical coordinator here at ChiroSpa, and I'm doing a series on the technique and the methodology that I use for time management. One of the biggest challenges that patients have when they come in and they start trying to get healthy is finding the time to do the things that they need to do. And this kind of goes into all aspects of life, not just your health, but also your finances and your relationships and so on. So if you haven't watched the previous two videos, please go ahead and watch those. They're going to be critical to what we're about to start going into, because we're about to start getting into the meat and potatoes. Before I do this, I want to share something with you that opened my mind up to using this management system. I used to use a lot more simple management systems like time blocking and so on and so forth, and I always kind of struggled with keeping up with what I was needing to get done. I'm a physician, I run this practice, I run another business, my wife and I are real estate investments, we're just very, very busy. We have 4 kids, my family is very important to me, so I'm always trying to juggle and make sure that my priorities are being met. And there have been times I've had a hard time with that. So one of the last things I wanted to do was take on something like this to better manage my time, because this takes time to do. And as I've told you in the other videos, this has been based on at least in a large part, on a program developed by Anthony Robbins called Rapid Planning Method. And you can Google this, go on YouTube. There's a nice 2-hour presentation on his method of using this. I've taken his method and I've kind of morphed it into my own system as well. So I'm teaching you my system, but a large part of this is based on his methodology. But one of the stories that he told when he first started explaining this made me open up to this more lengthy process of time management. And he told the story of every time he teaches this seminar, he has these people do this exercise as well. But basically, he has people get into pairs and has them sign their name in cursive, making sure they print every letter, signing their name in cursive, and they do that like 10 times. And they take all the times and they average how long it takes them to sign their name. Then he has them do this exercise where they actually write every other letter in their name. So instead of, like, for example, my first name is Sean, instead of writing S-E-A-N, I would write S-A, and that's all I would write. So, and then my last name being Price, every other letter in that process. So in the beginning, when they started doing that, of course, it took them a little bit longer because they had to get the mechanism down. But they did it 10 times as well, just like they did their full signature, they did this 10 times. And by the 10th time of writing only half the letters, they had reduced the time that it took them to write this signature. But the time that they reduced it was not by half, which is what you would think because you're only cutting the letters in half. They reduced it down to a third. They actually became more efficient at signing the incorrect name than they were at signing their real name. And the theory behind that is when you teach your brain something new and you're learning or creating neural connections, the brain becomes very active, it lights up, and it becomes very efficient at creating that neural connection. So learning new things helps you become more efficient. So the same thing applies to using this method of planning your day. Even in going through the process of me, when I first started applying this, it was very arduous, very laborious, it took a lot of time. But I've gotten very quick at it. I'm actually quicker doing this now than I was previously with my previous time management systems, which had a lot less steps in it. So just keep that in mind. You're going to be doing this on a regular basis. It's going to be systemized, and you will get very quick at it, and it's going to help you maintain efficiency in your day-to-day activity. Okay, so let's get to this. So in the last video, the first 2 videos we talked about the basic concepts. In the last video, we built out the wheel of your life. And the wheel looks something like this, okay? From this point on, I'm going to focus on the physical health aspect because I see patients, I'm a chiropractor, I'm a physician, we work with patients recovering from chronic conditions consistently. So we're going to focus on the physical health aspect of this. But you're going to take what I'm doing on the physical health and you're going to apply it in all of the other areas, the financial, the relationship, the constant never-ending improvement, so on and so forth. So if you haven't watched the 3rd video and built your wheel, you need to go do that because that's going to be critical. Okay, so we have our wheel. We've determined that physical health is at a 3 out of 10. We also determined that relationships, and there were a couple other areas that were at a 7 out of 10. So the first thing you want to do when you're going to set your quarterly goals or your quarterly improvement level is you want to get your weak areas up to the level of your strong areas. So you've already figured out how to keep these areas at a level 7. So you figured out how to keep your relationships happy or whatever these areas are for you. So you figured that out, so you just keep doing what you're doing there. That's become natural, it's second nature. You haven't even given that a thought, and that's where you're ranking that. But what you need to do is now start focusing on your weak areas. So we're going to focus on physical health. So what we need to do is we need to decide, what do I need to do to get my physical health from a 3 up to a 10? Okay, that's the next step, and then also for all these other areas. So how do I get a 3 up to a 10, or up to a 7? Because what you want to do is you want to make your life balanced and even, because then if you imagine your body and your life rolling on these wheels, if it's rolling on this current wheel, it's going to be very bumpy and very slow. But if you can get everything balanced, then your life starts rolling and things get easier, and then it's easier for you to get yourself up to a 10 in all areas. Okay, so we're not going to go for a 10 yet. We're first going to go for balance. So we're going to take your 3 and get it up to a 7. So how do we determine what a 7 is? Well, we have to determine what a 10 means to us. So for example, in your health, let's just use the weight loss goal for example. Let's say you weigh 250 and you want to weigh, let's say you want to weigh 150. You want to lose 100 pounds. That would be a 10 for you. So you would make 150 your marker there. If it's a financial issue, if you make $50,000 a year and you like to make $150,000 a year, 150,000 would be your 10, okay? But right now, at the weight of 250, to get yourself to a 7, you need to lose a certain amount of weight by that time, and you want to do that in a 12-week period. So you're going to set a realistic goal that's going to get you to that level. So the first thing is you have to define what your 10 is in each area, and again, you want to make this specific and measurable, so that you know when you've achieved it. Keep that in mind. Any goal you set, you have to know, when am I going to be done? That's how you know. You have that cutoff point. So you'll know you've reached your goal when you hit 150. All right. So specific and reasonable for an area, a 10 out of 10. And then to get to your 7, you set a weight loss goal of what you think you can accomplish over the next 12 weeks. Now, the reason that we do a 12-week, there's another mentor of mine, I can't remember the guy's name off the top of my head, but he wrote a book called The 12-Week Year. And the brilliance behind this is if you use, people set New Year's resolutions at January 1st, and then by the end of the year, they're like, or the end of the month, they've usually given up on it. Or if they've stayed focused on it, they just at least keep thinking, I've got the rest of the year, I've got the rest of the year. Before you know it, they hit November and it's like crap, and they're scrambling trying to reach those goals, if they hold those goals dear. Well, if you use a 12-week year, what will happen is you set goals at 12 weeks, and you set your activity at 12 weeks. So when you do that, basically going from a 12-week year, each week in that 12 weeks equals 1 month. So when you're planning out your activity, you're trying to get 1 month's worth of activity in 1 week. So that puts priorities on it, that puts urgency to it. Urgency moves us, so it gives you energy, it gets you moving. So in the 12-week goal system, basically each week equals a month and each day equals a week. So if you go through a day that you had certain goals laid out and you don't achieve those goals, in essence, you just wasted a week. So it gives you urgency on that day. So it keeps you constantly moving and constantly focused, because for you to reach your goal in 12 weeks, you have to constantly be acting every single day. So it's a great system to keep you on point, keep you moving. I love that system, and I love combining that in. So we're doing a 12-week year, okay? So the first thing that we do is we do what's called, and this is what Anthony Robbins calls the capture. And what you're doing with the capture is that's where you're just kind of brainstorming, and it's kind of like a brain dump. You're laying out everything that you know that you need to do in this area of weakness. That way you can get it all out, get it on paper, and then you can relax and go through the rest of the process. So the capture process for this, since we're trying to work on physical health, I'm just using a potential patient as an example. It's broken into 2 different areas. You have communications, in other words, calls, emails, who do you need to get in contact with, and you have things that you need to do. What are some actions? What are some programs? What are plans that needed to be done that you've got in your mind? And again, this is just a brain dump. We're not thinking a whole lot about this. We're just kind of brainstorming. So in the example of this patient, I've got, they need to call a gym to get a membership and find out membership pricing. They need to call Dr. Price's office because they want to find out what it would cost to come in and become a new patient, what the process is for them to start learning how to get healthier. So they would call our office. And then a to-do for them would be, and I'm basing this off of the 6 key components that I just shot a video series on. So if you want to learn more about this, go back and watch that video, the 6 ultimate steps to health. These are the areas most of the time when we don't have the health that we want that have broken down. So the person would write down, just kind of go in there, okay, I need to fix my brain, I need to fix my metabolism, I need to get adjusted, I need to start exercising, I need to sleep better, and I need to reduce my stress. Okay, so these are the the things that they need to achieve, that they want to achieve in the next 12 weeks to get to that 7 out of 10 that they're trying to get to. So it's just a brain dump. Let's say that this is about finances, just to give you another example. You want to call, if there's a job that you really want, you want to call the HR department at that company and say, hey, is there any chance that you guys are hiring? You want to, on this end, you want to sit down and set your goals. You want to determine that that you need to train yourself better so that you can be more prepared for that job. So you want to read a certain book. Just dump down the things that you think you need to do, and you want to do that in every area of your life. Okay, so that's called the capture page. That's step number 2 in the process. Step number 1 was the wheel. If you haven't done that, go back and do it. Step number 2 is to write down your capture of all the information for each of the areas that you're weak in. Okay, and we'll go on to step number 3 in the next video.